Two rival cartels built a fortress network on U.S. soil. The takedown didn't start with a door kick, it started with a single weak link. You're about to see how a joint FBI, DEA task force treated a drug hub like an enemy stronghold and dismantled it with methodical pressure. We'll map the counter-surveillance, the layered security, and the blind spot that collapsed a $42 million operation. Stay to learn the exact steps, from pattern of life to breach, that turned a drug bust into a textbook domestic counterinsurgency play. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
DEA investigators say cartel members used money from drug sales to buy cell phones from Houston storefronts. Some of those stores have a drug and money laundering operation with ties to the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, busted right here in Houston, that they were taking criminal proceeds. The phones were then sent to Mexico, sold there, and those proceeds went right back to the cartels.
They fought each other across the border, but in Houston they shared a spine. Sinaloa and CJNG didn't link arms, they linked logistics. The why is simple and cold: throughput. One city that could feed both pipelines, split fixed costs, and hide movement inside the noise of a major metro. Money rooms didn't mix, crews didn't mingle, but the trucks rode the same lanes and the keys to the warehouses sat on the same ring. The problem starts with proximity. Two rivals parking their supply chains inside the same grid creates speed and scale, but it also breeds friction. Each side had reasons to play nice, steer clear of turf wars, push volume fast, launder faster. But proximity cuts both ways. You reduce the number of handoffs, yet you grow the number of eyes that could turn. You save time, but you centralize failure. So they hardened. Not against a single enemy, but two. Across the street, law enforcement. Across the hallway, a rival who might plant a sensor or a snitch. They set rules like ceasefires with timers. No phones in certain rooms. No guns past certain doors. Crews rotated in 96-hour cycles so faces never got familiar. And every contact had a shadow, someone watching the watcher. The shell looked like a base defense plan. Rentals stacked 3 layers deep under fresh LLCs, each formed by out-of-state agents who never met the real owners. Fronts bled cash daily, body shops, freight brokers, storage units, but all paid with small bills from customers who never came back. Stash sites were staggered on a clock, a primary warehouse for intake and sort, an overflow unit 3 exits away for surge days, and burn locations, cheap leases kept empty until a heat alert, then loaded once and abandoned by sundown.
North Houston Church, 2 of its pastors are now accused of running a $50 million labor trafficking and money laundering scheme.
Drone video shows a bird's eye view of the JMMI Global Campus for Harvest off the North Freeway in North Houston. On Wednesday, a heavy law enforcement presence surrounded the facility, FBI agents moving in and out for hours.
Between them sat buffer apartments with blackout curtains and scanners, where counter-surveillance crews ran comms and scanned plates. Houston makes this model hum. You get a deep water port feeding containers inland. Interstates crossing like arteries, north to the plains, east to the Gulf states, west into the desert lanes. Air cargo that moves pallets fast with paperwork that looks the same at 2 a.m. as 2 p.m. And the traffic density that hides a 4-truck convoy in a sea of contractors and delivery vans. You could swap vehicles twice between Beltway and Loop, never leaving the same zip. Their counter-surveillance doctrine read like a field manual cut for asphalt. Surveillance detection routes weren't random, they were scripted. Deliberate lane changes through 3-lane merges to stretch any tail. U-turns at feeder roads just past the exit gore to force a choice, commit and expose, or break off. Timed loops past mirrored glass and bus stop shelters for a quick look at who sits 2 cars back. Dead drops staged with dummy packages and staggered pickup windows, designed to pull any watcher into a fixed point where a second team could tag them.
We got down and dirty with them and created cell phone stores that they did not know it was us, law enforcement. We watched how they were doing it from our investigation, and we set up exactly what they wanted and what they felt. So Look, undercover is undercover. When we go under, you never know who we are, where we are, or how we're doing it. And this is...
They brought in ex-military minds, not for muscle, but for method. Battle drills adapted to tail detection, immediate actions if a vehicle holds through 2 planned deviations, escalation if it survives a third. Brevity codes kept comms short and calm, single syllables for status, numbers for route shifts, color words for priority moves. Decision points were drawn like phase lines on a simple street map, with triggers: if tail confirmed by phase line red, switch to disperse plan C, split convoy, sanitize. Meanwhile, inside the shell, discipline made it look solid from the outside. Gate guards never wore badges, but they wore habits: hands free, heads up, watch the angles. Manifests were written in codes built from routine, not tech.
Rochelle Turner is outside Joshua Media Ministries International with what investigators say was happening behind closed doors.
In and out for hours. Sean Oakland works next door at City Electric Supply and says the scene didn't shock him. Steep donation quotas. Victims reportedly lived in ministry housing or even slept inside those call centers.
Even the trash was layered, clean bags on top, contaminated bags smashed flat and hauled in mixed loads to private transfer sites. But every fortress needs flow. Money, messages, and product had to pass through one node that both sides trusted. That node, small, boring, predictable, became the blind spot. A shared scheduler who cleared docks. A pallet checker who signed off weight and wrap. A single courier route that touched both stacks before dawn. You can armor a convoy, you can't armor a calendar entry. The mini payoff is harsh. A joint hub cuts cost per kilo and cuts days off transit time. It also binds 2 rivals to the same choke point. Compromise one node, one driver flipped, one locker opened, one routine mapped, and you punch both networks at once. Their strength, shared efficiency, turned brittle under pressure. If that fortress looked like a base, the takedown moved like a campaign. Slow squeeze, pattern of life, then a single exploit that cracked the shell and collapsed the lane. The fortress fell because a calendar did. Centralized logistics looked clean on a whiteboard, but under pressure it cracked like thin ice. 1 shared node. 2 pipelines. 0 resilience. If you want more deep dives into manhunting, pattern of life targeting, and urban takedown tactics, subscribe and tell me your lead option next time: financial choke, comms mapping, or human source. Comment your choice below. The next raid won't look the same. After every breach, the playbook shifts. Routes change, comms compress, and decoys multiply. That's the cycle. You adapt or you get rolled. The question is which flank opens first when the heat returns.